This Black Myth Wukong series covers how to do all quests and missable content in order so that all rewards and achievements can be obtained. For best results, follow this series from the start of part 1. There will be spoilers in the form of important information, and as usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. We left off at the start of chapter 2, which takes place in Yellowwind Ridge. Beginning at the starting point, we can run into the water and then up the hill to our right, past several crossbow enemies. At the end of this path, we will find the Lambbrew drink, which we can equip at the shrine through brewing. The first shrine of this area is then back down the path, across a small wooden bridge, and up the hill that follows. As a quick side note, look out for the bright purple licorice plants while adventuring through this region. If you're lucky, you'll get the goat skull soak when picking one up. That soak has a random chance to drop when harvesting any licorice plant. Getting back on topic, we are at the Sandgate Village entrance shrine. From there, we can drop down to the left of the shrine and follow this path into a cave. We will find a new and important NPC here named Zoo Dog. To complete Zoo Dog's quest, we will need to drop down into the nearby pond and defeat another frog boss, Lang Li Gu Ba. This one has abilities that deal shock damage, so watch out for those attacks. Also, watch out for its tongue grab. Upon our victory, we will get the evil repelling medicament recipe. There is also the first meditation spot of chapter 2 up the nearby ledge. It is for the altar Sandgate Village. With the medicament recipe in hand, we can return to Zoo Dog and speak with him to complete this step of his quest. We will get a sample of this new consumable and also unlock the ability to make medicines at any shrine. Returning to the village entrance shrine, we will move across the bridge and into the village area. We'll need to start by going to the right. Almost as soon as we enter the village, we can defeat the enemies near a turtle chest and then open the chest to get the Laurel Bud Soak. For a quick tip, while we move deeper into the village, we can use a jump and heavy attack combo to get more vertical distance. In any case, we will want to approach an isolated hut at the far side of the village. We should get an option to talk with the occupants of the house, and we can exhaust all of their dialogue before making our way up to the nearby rooftops. We'll want to eliminate all the enemies here before entering the clearing, or else they will join in on the boss fight. The boss, Earth Wolf, is relatively easy, so I won't spend too much time covering it. After it's defeated, we can absorb its spirit, then speak with Ma Tianba nearby. We'll find him tied up in a gazebo of sorts. All we need to do is speak through all of his dialogue. Next, we'll go open up the nearby set of doors. This is a shortcut back to the first shrine, but opening the doors will also trigger an encounter with an elite rat archer. After defeating it, we can absorb and obtain its spirit for our own use. I'm going to make things easy and fast travel back to the village entrance shrine once again. Just as before, we are going to move towards the spot with the golden turtle chest. This time, however, we will need to go through the pair of doors that are just past the turtle chest, which leads to our first major boss fight. And this is also a boss fight that must be completed in a specific way if you don't want to miss out on an important reward. We will need to defeat the rat captain before we can open the door, and these guys can be a huge pain. They also explode when defeated. Fortunately, they don't respawn once they are defeated, so I used everything I had at my disposal to take care of it. I then fast traveled back to the shrine to restore my resources and sprinted back to the set of doors that lead to the boss fight. If you really don't want spoilers, then just know that you need to defeat the smaller of the two boss enemies first, at least if you want all rewards. I still suggest watching ahead, but you can pause now if you want to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, the boss fight is against the King and Second Prince of Flowing Sands. In order to get a special reward from this fight, we need to defeat the King before we defeat the Prince. However, defeating the King will also cause the Prince to become enraged, making the fight harder. Because of that, I recommend getting both enemies low first, then finish off the King and quickly follow it by finishing off the Prince. The King will try to stay out of reach by sitting on top of the nearby pillars. Our Wandering White ability can actually smash these pillars, but the Prince's heavy attacks will also do the job. Once the King is on the ground, he is relatively easy to defeat, but again, the Prince will enrage once the King is defeated. For my own strategy, I got the King down to very low health, then worked on the Prince's health as well until it was somewhat low. At that point, I got the King back on the ground and defeated him. I then used an immobilize spell to lock the Prince in place and defeat him before he could cause too much trouble. Completing the fight in this way will get us the Pungent Flesh Chunk key item, which we will need to use later, along with an exclusive reward, the second Rat Prince Spirit. We can then run over to the nearby Valley of Despair Shrine for our next checkpoint. As a quick side note, after completing the boss fight we just covered, and both of the rat captains in Sandgate Village, we can return to that isolated house and speak with the NPC there for some new dialogue. I'm not sure if this actually does anything, but I do know that the NPC will be gone from here after we reload the game. Next up, we will go back to the Valley of Despair Shrine and move into the nearby cave. If we hang to the left, we'll drop down to a small arena of sorts. We should get a prompt to use the Pungent Flesh Chunk near the ledge here to summon another boss. And while it's not critical to watch this next part, the boss can be useful to open up a nearby secret. We can also open it ourselves though, and doing so will just require the Wandering White ability. You can pause now if you want to avoid spoilers. The secret passage we can open up is along this decorated stone wall of the arena. It can be opened by any sufficiently strong attack, such as the Wandering White ability, or by the first Prince of the Flowing Sands heavy attacks. We can bait the Prince by standing near the wall. Besides that though, this is a relatively easy fight, so I won't spend any more time talking about it. Once again, if we fail to get the Prince to destroy the wall, we can do it ourselves with the Wandering White ability. Defeating the first Prince of the Flowing Sands will get us the Arhat gold piece, which we will need to access the secret area of this chapter. We will then want to go through the crack that we made in the wall to reach a hidden chamber. Inside, we will find a chest that contains the Long Scales key item. This item is super important and will allow us to access some of the most challenging bosses in the game, but more on that later. Moving back out of the cave, we can follow the torchlit path towards the right to reach a golden pot. Breaking the pot will get us our second Awaken wine worm, and as a quick note, I would avoid using it on the Lambbrew drink that we got near the start of Chapter 2. Next, we can run along the second torchlit path in this area to reach a crack in the wall, which we will need to move through. There is an elite swift bat on the other side, and we can defeat it to obtain its spirit. We will then want to break through a wooden barricade to reach a poorly hidden cave. Near the back, we'll find a chest containing a celestial Nonary pill, permanently raising our max stamina. Running back to the previous chamber, we can then exit to the left to reach the Crouching Tiger Temple. Before moving on, the Back Scratcher Curios will now be available in the Shrine store, and we can buy it if we want. In addition, it may be worth making a quick trip back to the Marsh of White Mist in Blackwind Mountain to use that Awaken Wineworm on our coconut wine. With that, we can travel back to the Crouching Tiger Temple entrance shrine and make our way inside. Before entering the temple to fight a major boss, we can find and open a metal chest on our right as we climb the stairs. Near the top of the stairs, we will find the second meditation point to our left, which is for the Sculpture Crouching Tiger Temple. The next boss is fairly tough, but all we have to do is defeat it. With that, you can pause until after defeating it if you want to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, Tiger Vanguard is a difficult opponent. Well-timed casting of Immobilize and efficient use of the Red Tide's transformation will make things a bit easier, but it still took me a few attempts before I got his attack patterns down. The attacks to really watch out for here are his heavy sword swipes and also when he goes into rock solid form. That will often be followed up by a heavy punch attack that deals massive amounts of damage. Defeating the Tiger Vanguard will get us the rock solid spell, which we can switch out for our Cloud Step spell at any shrine. There are a couple of enemies before the next shrine, so heal if you need to, then return to this area. There is a nearby statue or pedestal of sorts that we are unable to activate at the moment. So instead, we will run out the back of the temple and up the following path. Just up the hill is a turtle chest guarded by 2 enemies. It contains the Copper Pill Soak, and our next shrine is then up the nearby stairs. The Windrest Bridge is the first shrine of the Yellow Wind Formation area. Running in and going along the path to the left, I would caution against sprinting past a bunch of enemies like I did, as they will follow you. After turning right and going up a small set of stairs, we can turn left once more to find a gold glowing pot. It contains the Sobering Stone Key item, which we will need to reach the secret area of this chapter. We can then move out and across this area, running down towards a tree and turning left at it. I recommend defeating any enemies following you before moving on, as there is a difficult fight with an elite enemy ahead. I failed to follow my own advice, so I had to get creative in losing the mob. In any case, the elite is a Rat Imperial Guard, and we can obtain its spirit here. We'll then want to go through the doors that the Rat Imperial Guard troop was encountered near. I missed it on my first pass, but there is actually a Luojia fragrant vine on the other side of this door, to the right. Feel free to grab that, then run up the path to reach the next shrine. The path from the Windrest Hamlet Shrine is pretty straightforward. We can loot a coffin chest just before the large stone bridge, where the next major boss is located. You can pause until after you defeat it if you want to avoid spoilers. The boss, Tiger's Acolyte, is not too difficult, and the only major risk of defeat is if you are flung off the side of the bridge. When defeated, the Tiger's Acolyte drops the old Rattle-Drum key item, which we will need to complete a side quest. He also leaves behind his spirit, which we can absorb for our own use. Moving across the remainder of the bridge and into the following cave, we can find a small square chest near a pillar. It contains the Glazed Reliquary Curios. There is another major boss fight ahead, but we are probably better off not fighting it for now. That said, we can carefully skirt around it and activate a nearby shrine instead. After exiting the cave, we'll drop off a small ledge and then stick to the side of the arena with the wall on our right as we move out. The shrine is then just a short distance ahead. There is actually an alternative way to reach this shrine with tons of important content to do along the way. So for that, we will return to the Valley of Despair shrine in Sandgate Village. Turning away from the shrine, we'll run across the boss arena and the Redwood Bridge that follows. Going up this path will take us to the Fright Cliff area, and the first shrine is just a short distance ahead. There are a few tasks that we need to complete in this area before moving on. The first of which is to collect 6 Buddha's eyeballs from various stone heads. Starting at the Squall Hideout Shrine, we can turn around and move a short distance to grab our first Buddha's eyeball. We can then return to the shrine and move up the path to the left of it. We should hear a chanting noise coming from our left as we move up this path, and following that noise will lead us to the second stone head and Buddha's eyeball. We'll just need to defeat any nearby enemies, then pick it up. Returning to the path we were on, we will run into the dark cave and stick to the left. Near the end of this path is an elite Poison Stone, and we can defeat it to unlock its spirit. An unusual boss fight is ahead, but before starting it, we should follow the sounds of chanting out and to the right to get our third Buddha's eyeball. My only recommendation for this boss fight is to take it slow and defeat any additional enemies as they spawn in. The boss, Mother of Stones, does not actually attack. It's just a stationary health bar that we need to chunk our way through. However, it will summon additional enemies at specific points of being damaged, and if we try to ignore them, they can easily build up and overwhelm us. In any case, once the Mother of Stones is defeated, we will get our Stone Essence key item, which we will be using in just a moment. For that, let's fast travel back to the Squall Hideout Shrine, then move up the path to the right of it. On the far side of this valley are some stairs that we can climb to an elevated area. There is a small chest for us to loot here, and we will want to defeat any enemies following us and those that are in our path. At the end of this elevated area is another stone head and our fourth Buddha's eyeball. We can then perform a few careful drops down to the narrow pit below, where we will find a new NPC, the Man in Stone. In order to free him, we need the Stone Essence, which we fortunately just got from the Mother of Stones. We can deliver it to him, and we will then have to beat him into submission. After defeating the Man in Stone, we can interact with him to get the Azure Dust transformation spell. In addition to this, if we go rest at a shrine and return to the Man in Stone, he will have some unique items for sale. We don't want to buy the Gold Ridge Beast as its only function is to be sold for less will than its asking price. We also don't need to buy the Sobering Stone since we already have one. However, the Iron Pellet is one of the best soaks in the game, and the Gold Flora Hairpin is a very nice Curios for getting more will out of enemies. In any case, we will next move out of this ravine and jump up to the path on our right. We can then follow this path to the next shrine, grabbing our 5th Buddha's eyeball along the way. There is a very difficult boss up to the right from the Rockrest Flat Shrine. Because it's so difficult, we will be holding off on fighting it until later in the chapter once we've gotten significantly stronger. Instead, we will move forward and to the left from the Rockrest Flat Shrine, grabbing our last Buddha's eyeball and moving into a familiar arena. We'll want to ignore the large stone clump for now and instead approach the scattered stones in the distance. You can pause until you do so to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, the Stone Vanguard is, in my opinion, the toughest boss we've fought in this chapter. The main reason is that it is just very tough and has attacks that punish being overly aggressive and greedy. It has 2 main moves to look out for. The first are the shockwaves that it follows up most heavy attacks with. The second is a more drawn out move where it begins quickly beating the ground to summon bomber stone enemies that fling themselves at us. The best bet here is to perform a series of retreating dodges for some distance, and to time the final dodge so that we avoid the final leap of the Stone Vanguard. Defeating the Stone Vanguard will get us the Sternness of Stone key item, which we will need to access new areas in Yellowwind Ridge. If we need to heal, we can find the next shrine just a short distance away, right outside the far side of the arena. We should also be able to craft the Gale Guard armor set, which can be very good if you are also good at performing perfect dodges. I am not, but I decided to craft it anyways in the hopes that I might get good at some point. That aside, we can move from the Rock Clash platform shrine back into the boss arena to face another boss. To do that, approach the rock clump with stone heads on it and deliver the 6 Buddha's eyeballs. You can pause now to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, I actually found this boss to be easier than the previous boss we just fought. It might have just been the new armor set, but I also found myself avoiding Shigandang's attack patterns a lot more naturally. In any case, do know that you can hold off on fighting this boss if you want, as defeating it is not really necessary until reaching the final chapter of the game. That being said, defeating it is really beneficial as it will allow us to craft a great weapon. When defeated, Shigandang will drop the Skandha of Feeling key item, which again, we won't need until much later. However, it also drops a crafting material that we can use to craft the Cloud Patterned Stone Staff. This thing does 50% more damage than my current staff and has some great passive bonuses, so I crafted it. Before leaving this area, we will want to start at the Rock Clash platform shrine and move across the arena we just fought in. After exiting, we'll move towards a clearing on our left. There are 2 things of import here. First is an NPC, the yellow-robed Squire. We can give the sobering stone we found earlier to this drunken boar, then speak through all of his dialogue to progress his quest. After that, we can harvest the fragrant jade flower nearby, then run towards the edge of the clearing to find our 3rd meditation point, which is for the Deadwood Rock Rest Flat. Next up, we'll go to the Crouching Tiger Temple entrance shrine and move up the stairs. Near the top of the stairs to the right, we should find the Squire at his second location. If you're unable to progress this quest step, make sure that you have a fragrant jade flower in your inventory and speak with the Squire again. He should talk about a realm of gold. We'll complete his quest in just a moment, but while we are here, let's move up into the Tiger Temple boss arena. We can now activate the statue at the arena's center, and you can pause until you've done so to avoid minor spoilers. After a short cutscene plays out, a new path will open to us, and we can head inside. Along the path, we will find our second Celestial Jade Lotus Pill, increasing our maximum health. The next shrine is a short distance ahead, so feel free to use all of your abilities to defeat the elite Civet Sergeant and absorb his spirit. I recommend watching ahead here so you don't have to waste time running back to this spot. After looting a coffin chest, we will need to slide down a small sand slope to reach the next shrine. However, if we execute a heavy jump attack at the right moment while sliding down, we can reach a secluded area. A small turtle chest there contains the Tiger Relic Soak. You can pause now until you discover the next shrine to avoid spoilers. After a short cutscene plays out, we will get the A Pluck of Many spell, which is a very powerful, but also very expensive spell to cast. There is another way that will get stronger here, and it's nearby. Just a short distance from the Cellar Shrine is the NPC Zoo Dog. We can interact and talk to him to get a free mind core. We can also buy 2 mind cores from the shrine shop. These mind cores can be used to craft celestial medicines, which permanently raise a variety of stats. In my opinion, the 3 most useful of these are stamina recovery rate, maximum mana, and defense. Personally, given my more basic playstyle, I'm maxing out my stamina recovery rate first, and will then go for defense. Zoo Dog also sells a formula here, and we will need to get all formulas eventually if we want 100% completion and all trophies. With that, we can return to the Rock Clash platform shrine and make our way back to where we first met the yellow-robed Squire. This time, he will be towards the right side of the clearing, and we will need to defeat him in combat to progress his quest. Doing so will get us the Snout Mask, and we can then approach and interact with the nearby double doors. Doing that will bring us to the Kingdom of Sahali, which is Chapter 2's secret area. We will encounter a minor boss almost immediately after the Sandgate Pass Shrine. The quote-unquote Tiger Vanguard is such an easy fight that I won't bother covering it beyond that. He'll give us the Tiger Tally Curios when defeated, and we can then move a short distance forward to reach the next shrine. Before we approach the giant Ratman nearby, we'll want to move away from and to the left of the Sandgate-bound shrine. There is a gold medal chest that we can loot there for an easy Knot of Voidness and Gold Ridge Beast. Continuing along this direction, we will also find the 4th meditation point for the Rock Sandgate Bound. Then, if we want, we can go to the area that is right of the Sandgate-bound shrine to find a coffin chest, which contains a free mind core. With that, we can make our way to the giant NPC to start the boss fight for this area. You can pause until after defeating it if you want to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, Fuban is a more cinematic boss, so let me just explain the basic phases of the fight. To start, once Fuban has emerged, we will need to swing at its claws to deal damage. Once we've lowered its health to a little over the halfway mark, it will submerge itself in sand. All we need to do at that point is evade its attacks until a cutscene is triggered. At that point, we'll need to climb up Fuban and seize the vessel from the Buddha head on its back. Once we've done that, the trident-wielding NPC should join us in the fight, doing most of the remaining work to defeat the boss. Victory will bring us plenty of will and some very rare crafting materials. We'll also get the Wind Tamer vessel, which is very helpful against the final boss of Chapter 2. At this point, we have one remaining side quest to complete and a few major bosses to defeat. Starting at the Rock Clash platform shrine, we will move down the nearby path to fight an elite rat governor. Watch out for the elite's triple beam attack as it is extremely deadly. After we defeat it, we can absorb its spirit and sit down at the meditation point nearby. This is the second to last meditation point, and it's for the Ravine Rock Clash platform. We can then move down a torchlit path, grabbing a celestial Taiyi pill from a small chest along the way. There is a large sand slope at the end of this path, and we can jump off towards the left of it to loot a chest and get some will. We will then make the rest of our way down and find a new shrine. From the Windseal Gate Shrine, we can open up the nearby set of doors, but we won't actually be going through them yet. Instead, we'll be going up the path that is to the left of the shrine. Near the end of it, we will find the Gore-Eye Taoist Yaoguai Chief. We can defeat it and absorb its spirit, then pluck the Luojia Fragrant vine nearby. There's also a mushroom near here that I believe is guaranteed to spawn a Ling Ziling, and we can defeat that to add it to our journal. From there, we will move up a new path and across a long rope bridge. After dispatching any enemies on our tail, we can go through the dilapidated wooden structures to our left. We should get a prompt to use the old Rattle-Drum here for a quest, and doing so will cause us to be swarmed by undead. Also, be warned that the ginseng plant here will spawn an enemy if harvested. There is a shortcut that we can open up nearby, but it really is not necessary. Instead, we will need to get ourselves to the Windrest Hamlet Shrine in Yellowwind Formation. We will then go down the path to the right of the shrine, grab the Luojia Fragrant Vine if we haven't already, and move through the double doors. Going to the small area on our left will trigger another prompt to use the Rattle-Drum, and that is all we need to do here. Next, we will go to the Valley of Despair Shrine in Sandgate Village. There is another set of doors here that we can open, but what we really need to do is move up the stairs on the opposite side of the arena and make our way through Sandgate Village, to the gazebo where we found Ma Tianba near the start of Chapter 2. We will be prompted to use the Rattle-Drum near a water well that is just beyond the gazebo, and you can pause until after you do that and jump into the well to avoid spoilers. This questline concludes with a fight against the Mad Tiger boss. At this point, I don't think the fight will be too difficult, especially with all of the upgrades we've gotten up to this point. After it's over, we can absorb the Mad Tiger spirit and open the nearby coffin chest to get the Plaguebane Gourd. There's also a shrine that we can discover here and use it to leave this area. Before continuing, I recommend making a trip to the Shen Monkey in the Marsh of White Mist to upgrade your healing gourd if you have not already done so. I also recommend visiting Zoodog in the Crouching Tiger Temple cellar to spend any mind core fragments you might have on permanent stat upgrades. The reason is because we are about to fight two very tough bosses. To start, we can go to Rockrest Flat in Fright Cliff. We'll go up the stairs to the right of the shrine. There will be an elite Spearbone enemy waiting for us, and we can use all of our spells and abilities to defeat them, as we will be getting a full restore right after. After getting the Spearbone Spirit, we can approach the nearby Sandfall. The long scales that we picked up earlier will allow us to dispel the wall of sand and enter the chamber that it protects. If you want to avoid spoilers, you can pause now until after you face the challenge that lies ahead. When I said this was a challenge, I really meant it. The Black Loong is easily the most difficult boss we fought up to this point, and one of the more difficult bosses in the game. It took me several attempts before I was able to get down its attack pattern well enough to defeat it. The most dangerous phase is when it starts banging its maces on the ground to release pulses of lightning. When that happens, your best bet is to get a lot of distance and carefully time your dodges or jumps to avoid the pulses. Once you are able to do that consistently, you should be able to get through the rest of the fight. Besides that, I'll just let the rest of the fight play out and hope that it proves useful. Once the Black Loong is defeated, we can go loot the nearby chest to get some rare and unique materials along with the Tridacna Pendant, which is a really good Curios. We'll then need to run our way out of this area and back to the nearest shrine. For the next boss, we will actually need to go back to Blackwind Mountain from Chapter 1. Starting at the shrine outside the Forest of Wolves, we will move up along the left side of this area, making our way towards a waterfall. Once we are at the waterfall, we can use the long scales once more to clear the obstacle and access yet another difficult boss fight. You can pause until after defeating it if you want to avoid spoilers. In my opinion, the Red Loong is not as difficult as the Black Loong, but it is still a challenge. Watch out for its slicing tail attacks and deal sufficient damage to stagger it. Then, destroy the sensors on its back for major damage. Destroying all 4 sensors will put an end to the Red Loong, and we can go loot the nearby chest to get more unique materials and the Boshan sensor Curios. Like with the last fight, we will need to run out of here and make our way back to the nearest shrine. We're just about ready to finish Chapter 2. For that, we will go to the Crouching Tiger Temple Cellar Shrine, then go out and down the nearby slope. The final boss is to the left, but first we want to go up the path to the right. There, we will run into the NPC Yuan. We can speak with him for some context and lore on the 4 Longs, then sit down at the final meditation point, which is for the Grotto Yellow Wind Formation. We can then backtrack and enter the Sandstorm to start the final fight. Don't forget to equip and make use of the Wind Tamer vessel that we got earlier, and you can pause now until reaching the Chapter 2 summary screen to avoid spoilers. For everyone else, the Yellow Wind Sage is fairly challenging, but totally manageable in comparison to the 2 Long fights. The Wind Tamer vessel is most beneficial to use when the Sage begins whipping his trident about to summon a sandstorm. After our victory and the cinematics that follow, we will get to the Chapter 2 summary page. There, we can open our inventory to activate the Fuming Ears relic. I would personally advise against the Sound as a Bell trait unless you are very good at timing rock-solid deflections. For my own part, I went with the Whistling Wind. We can also check the journal to see if we missed anything. At this point, we should have all portraits and meditation spots discovered for both Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Once we are ready, we can go ahead and proceed to Chapter 3. This next chapter takes place in the New West, which is even larger than Yellow Wind Ridge. If you have any issues or questions, you can reach out to me in the comments where I will do my best to help. We will be covering the entirety of Chapter 3 and the New West in Part 3 of this series. You can find that over on my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day if you're here today, have a great Wednesday, and as always, Thanks for watching.